It's mainly, it is an informational item for y'all as our leadership group. And as you know, we've been working with a number of our member jurisdictions, neighbors, on Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, or SIGMA as it's called. One of the issues that we mentioned briefly before that's taken some traction has been trying to determine what the best boundary is for the basin that's going to get managed. As background, somewhere between 30 and 40% of the water that's used in the state of California is done through groundwater from groundwater basins, so there's now laws to protect that and make them sustainable. Department of Water Resources used what they call a Bulletin 118 boundaries from USGS to establish the basin boundaries, and they basically just established the boundary of a bowl of rock underneath our surface that holds water. What they didn't do was take into account the bigger area of the watershed boundary, which actually is the water that's collected and drains into the basin. So one of the opportunities that was going to be given was to adjust the boundaries to include the watershed. For our potential basin, it makes sense from a management standpoint to include the watershed boundary rather than the basin boundary. But the state's regulations took forever to get settled on how that application process could happen. It just came out a turn of the year. Plus, they had a really short timeline. And when our working group met to talk about whether we should or shouldn't do this because of the situation here on the west side with the Wilson Road Foundation and the way the water interacts, one of the questions we had was, do we have to do it now, or is there opportunity later to adjust a boundary if we need to? And, you know, wouldn't we rather do it where it made sense and where it's not under duress, because we felt that the timeline to do this properly was really, really short. They needed it by the 1st of March. So we decided to make a non-decision, and that was to not make any application for a boundary adjustment now, but to look to other opportunities. And there will be at least two. One is when the Groundwater Sustainability Agency is actually constituted. The boundary can be part of that process. And the second is when the Groundwater Management Plan is created. So there's ample opportunity to adjust it if we need to. We in the work group realized that making this non-decision is actually a decision because it sets up charts of course for us. And those of us that are affected by the west side of the basin, meaning City of Sebastopol, the water agency, and the unincorporated county, felt it really important that we just have this discussion with our leadership group so they know what we've not decided and realize what the consequences might be. So it's just share information. I'm trying to make it quick, but that's the basics of it. So that you know what we're doing and why.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for the map. That was really helpful. Are there questions for Henry from the council?
You didn't mind the big arrows that I drew on there?
I did not mind the arrows at all. Like we all know.
Legible handwriting.
And I thought the handwriting was good too. Any questions for Henry? Seeing none at this time, I'll open this to the public. If anybody would like to speak, we have John. Welcome this evening. I've seen you well. Thank you for coming.
I'm John Rosenblum. I'm a member of the Belmont Terrace Mutual Water Company, which is just on the northern edge of the city. We are in the sphere of influence of the city, and that's why I'm here. The question of groundwater sustainability is important because we operate from a well, just like the city of Sebastopol. However, as a mutual water company, we don't have the standing that a city has within this new act. The focus of the act really was to make a significant advance in groundwater management, and that was achieved. However, just like this technical issue of where the boundary is, we're sort of in a never-never land because we're a neutral. It could be resolved when the city council decides to formally become part of a management agency. That's how we're concerned. We don't get standing until the city becomes part of a management agency. Everything's online right now just to get the initial planning phase done. But we don't want to miss out on funding opportunities in the future. And there will be funding opportunities in the future. We need help with funding because we have a 60-year-old piping in the ground. We need to replace that piping. We've done very well with our efficiency. However, the reason I'm here is to appeal to the City Council to formally join or become part of the management agency. I mean, it's possible still to become an independent management agency, but we need the city to move in order for us to gain standing. And that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming. Any other comments on this item? Seeing nobody come forward. Henry, would you address that issue that John raised about our membership? Is that the right word, insignia?
Yeah, there are 3 mutual water companies that are real close to Sebastopol that are affected by this. And yes, they have a legitimate concern because they are outside the Santa Rosa Basin, and yet they could be impacted by decisions that are made by the Santa Rosa Basin managers in the future. And Dr. Rosenblum and I have had some conversations, and I understand, we're their nearest neighbors that have any interest and even know who they are, and so they look for us to provide some leadership. I cannot agree with him that they would have any different standing whether we're members or not. I think what would happen is they would have a more, if we were to join, I think he's correct in thinking that we would become as close to anybody as their advocates. What would change their standing is if that basin boundary was adjusted, because they would be within the watershed and outside the basin. And so for that reason, I hope that happens eventually. Because, I have to tell you, after we had an outreach meeting in December, we meeting the working group, the water agency, the other participants, and afterwards I was approached by Dr. Rosenblum and his cohorts, and a lot of the independent people that have wells, agriculture out in the West County for them, who can lobby for us, and it is an issue. I don't know that there's an answer to that just yet. I will say that at the Sigma discussions we've had, we've started to talk a little bit about the governance situation and how that might shake out. And there's some conversation about who's supposed to have a vote at the table, but there's no resolution of that yet, obviously.
Can you remind me who the 3 mutual water companies are? We got Belmont Terrace, Burcrest.
It's the third one I can never remember.
I got that far.
And it's embarrassing because just 2 days ago I asked somebody to help me remember because I knew it was going to come up tonight.
Okay, well, we'll think of it. We know that. We'll think of it. Alrighty, so any questions for staff or comments from the council? Then I believe the request tonight is direction to staff to continue with this project. At this point, making the decision of no decision, bringing it back to us. That's the request?
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. Do we need a motion? All right. Is there a motion to that effect from the council?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Jacob, and a second.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Slater. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor then say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions, that carries. That's the direction. And we'll keep on this. Thank you.
Good job.
On to item number 11. This is consideration of approval to direct staff to shorten the notice of the request for application submittal deadline for a vacant position on the planning commission. We have a staff report from the city clerk and city manager. If one of you would like to go over that briefly. Mary defers to Larry. Okay.
Last week, the council did a number of interviews and made appointments to 3 vacancies which existed on the planning commission. The council is aware and had a discussion last week. City staff had also received, and the council received, an email from planning commissioner Scott Stegman advising all of us that he was resigning from that position effective January 1 of this year. So there is still that vacancy. At its meeting last week, the council directed staff, as the staff report said, consistent with transparency and openness, we were directed to notice this vacancy from Mr. Stegman's resignation per city procedures. His term is for the term that would expire on December 31st, 2016. We are publishing a notice of the vacancy, but staff had some discussions and is returning this item to you with a suggestion that the council agree to shorten the notice period. In other words, change a bit the city's requirements in that regard and shorten the notice period for several reasons that we allude to in the staff report, including the fact that we had already noticed vacancies previously and solicited, and all the applications that we felt we could solicit at the time. So there's been a lot of public awareness of the various vacancies on the Planning Commission anyway. And secondly, that the Planning Commission has a number of upcoming projects which would warrant seating of a full Planning Commission. The staff report lists several of those, including the general plan, zoning ordinance revisions, etc., including hotel projects. And so staff is just bringing this back to you with a suggestion that the council consider shortening the notice period and that a new deadline be established of January 28th for applications, if any further applications are made for this additional vacancy.
Thank you. So it's my understanding that were this to succeed this evening, we could interview on February 2nd and then potentially appoint that night, if the 28th deadline prevailed this evening.
Correct. And can I also add that after the last staff meeting, I did notices already with a deadline of to be determined, so that it has already been out there for a week now as well.
Oh, good.
So,
Thank you. Yeah. All right. Any discussion, questions of staff? While you're all thinking, I'll see if anybody from members in the public this evening would like to speak on this issue. Seeing no one come forward, then it's back here. Councilmember Slater, you look ready to say something?
I have a question about the, what would the standard window be? How long would it be open?
it's typically 4 to 6 weeks. So 6 weeks would be your average. So this one would technically be like right under 4 weeks if the council agreed to.
Okay, so it's on the short end of normal.
It's on the short end of normal.
Okay.
But I have re-announced it right after the last meeting, so it is out in the public, it's in the media. It just has not been noticed publicly in the newspaper, so that's what I'm waiting for to go
All right.
tomorrow.
Okay, I will move that we direct staff to shorten the application submittal deadline for the current vacancy on the planning commission.
Is there a second to that motion? I'll second it. Any discussion? Seeing none, then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? I think that was a 3-0 or a 4-0. Okay, thank you. And let's go on to item number 12. This is a discussion of a request for consideration of creation of an alternate position on the planning commission. Let's see, this has my name on it and Councilmember Slater's name on it. Would you like to present on this? Or I shall, or you shall? Okay,
I shall,
thank you.
although my name is listed second. So, this was something that the mayor and I came to simultaneously, that following the interviews from last week, that, hey, we have an alternate on the design review board, why don't we have one on the planning commission? And by my calculations, and I'm sure I've missed some, but over at least the past 6 years, there's been about one vacancy per year on the planning commission due to, in this particular council's constitution, 2 elections to this body from the planning commission. We've had resignations due to a number of reasons, folks moving out of the area, change of life, et cetera, et cetera. So with the frequency of approximately one vacancy per year, it seems to make a lot of sense to have somebody waiting in the wings and ready to go, who's already up to speed and can just step right in and take over a vacancy. So that's our thinking.
Pleasant has this great benefit, if somebody's absent, like Scott was missing for, about 3 months or so, then we have a functioning person who's up to date who could step in and exercise that vote, which I think is really important. So we give people, that time they need under our ordinance to make their decision, can they participate or do they need to resign? And meanwhile, the commission isn't operating to its detriment with a less than full count. So this person could step in and do that, cover absences just due to illness, and be online. So any discussion, questions of council members Slater and myself or staff? Any comments from the public on this item? No one coming forward. I will bring this back to the council. This is a request for an amendment to the municipal code.
I move that we direct staff to draft the amendment to the municipal code to add an alternate seat on the planning commission.
Thank you. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Slater. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? That will carry. We'll go on to item number 13. Here we are, at last, for the discussion and appointment of members of staff and of the council to our 2016 assignments and committees.
I move that Vice Mayor Glass be appointed to every position. That's sarcasm, that's not real.
Just because she's not here. All right. So I know it's a little tedious, but I think the most helpful way to go through this, so that our city clerk can take notes on changes, is just to start from the top. We have a couple pages here that we need to go through, that I would welcome any comment from the public at this time, before we go into that level of detail. Did anyone want to talk about this item? Seeing no one come forward, then let's review. I'm in section A. This is separate formal agencies. Presently, I'm the rep to the SCTA and RCPA, and Councilmember Slater is the alternate. I think probably just to make it easier, we'll talk only where I'm going to suggest some changes or one of you might want to change. So remit, we're good there. We already appointed Vice Mayor Glass to the Mosquito Abatement Board, the Waste Management Agency. Good luck, Henry. Okay, now we're on to section B. These are the advisory committees. Let's see, Zone 1A, Advisory Committee, we're good there, I think. Sub-Regional Partners, TAC. CDEG, TAC. And if our city manager is looking to make changes, I hope you'll jump in. AB 939 Local Task Force. Over there. Okay, on the back side of that. This is our countywide bicycle and pedestrian advisory committee, where Jeffrey Skinner is our citizen rep. The SDTA TAC, our engineering director is there. Sounds like we're good. Council liaison to special committees, World Friends, Councilmember Slater, you're there. The Library Advisory Committee, Councilmember Eder.
I have a question on that. I thought those meet every other month. They meet once a month.
Oh my goodness, well, we just lost our library people.
I'll
They
find
used
out.
to meet once a month, and then I think after doing that through the issues related to the library that were resolved through the JPA, I think they've gone to every other month now.
Yeah, that was my understanding. That's why I just saw it
Yeah.
first Wednesday of the month. That was the question.
I think,
So they are,
I missed the
I'm
last.
not aware of that, so I appreciate knowing that, because I'm,
okay, we need an update on the
I was
meetings.
going, uh-oh, I just missed the meeting.
yeah, I will clarify, because I still have them as once a month, so I didn't realize.
Okay.
Well, I think maybe they changed it.
I'll email them.
I'm getting confused the more I talk about it.
All right.
So you're good staying there, okay? We're the Stakeholders Committee, Vice Mayor Glass did want this one, and she's actually on there, so we'll keep it in there. The Chamber of Commerce, Let's see, Councilmember Slater, you're my alternate, and I wonder if you'd be willing to switch positions there and be the liaison. Chamber of Commerce member.
That's fine, we'll be coming up to one that I will need to drop off of, though, to take that one.
Okay, so we'll put you in as tentative, we'll just change that and get back to it.
And who will be the alternate?
I'd be willing to be the alternate if you would be the main rep, okay? Okay, other committees, ABAG. We have cities, mayors and council members, the Ledge Committee. I'll let you speak up when you want to change it. You're good, Councilmember Eater, with that. Senior Center. And the Employee Awards Recognition Committee, that's our vice mayor. The Budget Subcommittee. We thank our vice mayor and Councilmember Jacob and staff for doing that. Palm Drive Healthcare. The Center for the Arts. Energy and Sustainable Practices. Water Subcommittee. Community Needs for City-Owned Parking Lots. Let's see, that has my name and Councilmember Eaters. Do we need that committee now, or do you think we can dissolve it, Councilmember Eater?
I don't see anything happening in the immediate future.
So can we drop that just by mention this evening?
Yes.
I think Pine Grove Square is kind of taking over that energy. Health Action, I've been the rep for a long time. If somebody would like that responsibility, they meet the first Friday of every third month, so that's 4 meetings a year. And this group is an early morning business group. They meet at 7:30-ish for breakfast, and by 8 o'clock, the meeting starts. Everybody's highly caffeinated and go really fast. They're very high energy if anybody would like to want that assignment. Nobody's volunteering. The Disaster Council, Councilmember Slater.
That's one of my favorites.
Okay, it says this is designated by the mayor, so I'm designating you. Transition Sebastopol and Transition Town USA. I'm there, it's very informal. Once in a while I get emails from them. If anybody is well connected to those groups, I'd be pleased to have you step in. Nobody is. And the Downtown Association.
That's the one that I would like to surrender to somebody else. This is a very difficult time of the week for me to get to the meetings, and
Yeah.
it's just, I miss more than I make, and it's just a very difficult time for me.
And it's the first Tuesday of the month, so that puts it on our meeting night every time. It's the afternoon at 1:30. Personally, I have many meetings on Tuesdays, and I don't really want to add this. Would anybody like to be their liaison? Nobody's volunteering, so
What does it entail? I mean, what?
attending the
It's just
meetings.
trying to get to the meetings and provide a little council input.
They have questions about, what the city can and will do, and
Do you want to defer that until the vice mayor's in attendance? She may have some interest as she works in town.
we could ask.
That's fine, we can defer that particular item.
Okay, we'll hold that one.
Isn't Robert Jacob a member? Are you a member of the SBA?
Yeah, well, we're looking for somebody to take that, and we'll hold for Vice Mayor Glass. Yeah, a number of us do have offices in that area. Okay, so let's move on to Cheetah Slow Steering Committee. We have Councilmember Jacob there, Sonoma Clean Powers, chair of the whole group is right here, Councilmember Slater.
And I'm not willing to give that up.
No?
And I would also suggest that be moved to category A, separate formal agencies, where I believe it would be more accurately residing.
Okay, that's an editorial remark Mary will deal with. Okay. Let's see, the subcommittee to explore new ideas for City Hall. Okay, Pine Grove Square, we've sort of shortened the name there. And Councilmember Slater, you and I hope to continue on that with the city manager. the cement plant property. I had a request from the vice mayor that she be put on this committee. Councilmember Eater, would that be acceptable to you to drop
Who was
this?
put on?
The vice mayor,
Oh, sure,
you know.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, thank you. She was interested in that assignment, Village Mobile Home Park Subcommittee. I think we keep that in place. The Library City Hall Landscape Project, let's keep that in place. We have a work day tomorrow. If anybody would like to help from 10 to noon, and it won't be raining. And I think the work days are, is that the third Wednesday of every month? And then there's a big one on April 2nd, which is a Saturday. Okay, the Business Outreach Committee Task Force. This is important work. I don't know that you guys have met, but I would encourage you to. Councilmember Eater, we have you on the Russian River Watershed. Santa Rosa, okay with you?
I'm happy to stay.
Thank you. Santa Rosa Plain Groundwater Management Plan Basin Advisory, that's Henry again. Climate Action 2020, that's Vice Mayor Glass and Councilmember Eater. Community Impact Reports, that's myself and Councilmember Jacob, and we actually had a meeting, which we will report to you later on tonight. So,
So
very
just,
few changes.
and just return the one at the
And
next
then,
meeting.
if it's acceptable to, yeah, I guess we have to bring it back. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
will do, thank you. Let's move then
Can I have a
to,
motion then to make those changes?
can we have a motion to
So
approve the assignments as discussed this evening? So moved by Councilmember Jacob, I'll second it. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, that will carry.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so I think we adjourn the council meeting and convene the successor agency for the former community development agency. Okay?
Calendar items unless they, these are consent calendar items
Okay.
unless someone wants to pull it.
All right, so we've got call to order and the roll call. Everyone's here except Vice Mayor Glass. And we have two consent calendar items, approval of the recognized obligation repayment schedule, that's number 14 in your agenda, and number 15, approval of the successor agency administrative budget for fiscal year 16-17. Okay, we have a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second?
I think I moved, okay, I moved, he's seconding.
Oh.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you on it. We did that, and we will adjourn that meeting and reconvene the regular city council meeting for city council reports. First from the city manager.
I'll send you an email reminder of this, but I will be out of the office on Thursday and Friday attending the REMA training and meeting.
Thursday and Friday.
Thursday and Friday.
Okay, thank you. St. Helena. City council reports, committee reports, subcommittee meeting reports, etc. I will point out that my report on the SCT RCPA is here in writing to you. I ask this become part of the minutes. Also, I want to report that the water subcommittee met and is considering a proposal from Daily Acts to assist in, to facilitate a workshop on rainwater catchment, a potentially second workshop on gray water systems, and we're trying to work out timing, hopefully to catch part of this rainy season and the building season, so we will bring that back. There will be a funding request with it, I believe. Also, the CIR subcommittee met. Oh, wait a minute, I wanted to add that Cheetah Slow Sevastopol has offered to assist with publicity about that event. The CIR subcommittee also met and included some Cheetah Slow Sevastopol members in that meeting. So we are underway and will get back with our recommendations as to how to address that giant topic. Also, I wanted to emphasize the invitation we had from the Laguna Foundation for February 2nd That is the morning of our next council meeting from, I think, 9 till noon, a little earlier than 9. The Laguna Nosets are taking a kayak tour of the Laguna, have invited the city council and staff to participate today. They offered us free seats. I'm sorry, 5 free seats. 5 free seats to participate in that. And I really encourage many of us to do that. Hopefully, I mean, they won't take people out if the weather is unsafe or the water is unsafe. When the water's kind of full and static, it's very tame, it's very safe. And you get to be on the water and see what the lagoon is that everybody talks about. So I did this a couple of years ago and would like to go out, and I especially enjoy having, for instance, like our planning department have a field trip that morning. So you need to follow up on the email if you're interested. So are there any other committee reports? Seeing none, any council communications that have been received? We did get a report on the Complete Streets Committee, and I answered that by email. I believe all of you got my response earlier today. Future city meeting dates. Let's see, coming up, February 2nd, February 9th, Right. February 16th, all those Tuesdays. And here we are. This Tuesday we will adjourn a little bit before 1:15. Thank you.